Back in 2005, Nintendo released the Game Boy Micro. I have one right here, and it's a black one with a silver faceplate. And this is one of my favourite Game Boys, purely because you can just take a tiny little thing with you and a flash cartridge and play all of the games you could possibly want to play. Now this thing is beautiful and features an actual metal shell, which is really, really nice. They're very beautiful little things and they're highly collectible. And of course, like other Game Boys, there are lots of different variations out there that you can get, which makes yours look slightly different from someone else's. And one of the ones that they made was this one, which is the Famicom edition, and it was used to commemorate the 20th anniversary of Mario. It's a very nice sort of chrome, dark red. This one's not in the best condition, which is a little bit of a shame, but they're quite expensive because obviously they look so beautiful. And they are actually made to look like the Player One controller from the Famicom, which is actually a very clever little design because it's roughly the same sort of size as that. But Nintendo being Nintendo, they sometimes do things quite cool, and they actually made a Player 2 Game Boy Micro. However, it didn't work. My name is Elliot and this is the Retro Future. Without any further ado, let's find out why Nintendo gave away fake Game Boy Micros. Now unfortunately, mine is not the Player 2 Game Boy Micro, and I know what you're thinking, why on earth are you making this video? Well, this thing was a points reward that you could get on the Club Nintendo website back in 2005 for the grand total of 200 points. It was only released in Japan, it's Japanese exclusive, so some of you may have never heard of this thing before. Now unfortunately, this is actually the exact same faceplate that is on this Game Boy right here. Now the reason I got this for quite cheap was obviously because someone had taken the faceplate that was the desirable one off and put it on their Game Boy Micro and took the one that was on their Game Boy Micro and put it onto this. But what is this and why is it fake? Well, it's actually a dummy Game Boy Micro, which is the most bizarre concept ever. Nintendo rewarded you with a faceplate that was attached to a complete Game Boy Micro, which did absolutely nothing. Let's take a quick look at it. So it comes in this plastic little box, and you can see up there it has the Club Nintendo logo. It's got a little plastic stand that you can fold out, which is a really nice way to display the reward that you have earned by spending all of your money. And if we flip it over, you can see the Game Boy Micro is just situated right here on the front. And it's a really nice little display box. You can see down there as well, it actually says Game Boy Micro in a really nice little bit of text. The whole thing is made out of cardboard, but it's a very, very high quality cardboard. There goes the Game Boy Micro. So in the actual box, you get a set of instructions and this little guitar pick looking thing. So not only do you get all of this packaging, but you also get a Game Boy Micro. You get a Game Boy Micro. I mean, what? So these things look pretty much identical. Obviously it is supposed to have a different faceplate on it, but just ignore that for one moment and let's take a look at the actual devices themselves. So when you flip them over, you can see it is pretty much exactly the same. However, there's a bit of text difference that you can see on this one over here. So the first thing you may notice is there's a small box here with some Japanese writing, and that Japanese writing says non-working product. The other thing as well, which is I find really interesting, is where this sticker is on the back of this one, as well as on the back of this one, there's a sort of an indentation, which means that the sticker is sitting flush with the actual device. So this is actually a completely different back for the Game Boy. This does not have that recessed part, so it's a completely different housing, which is just really, really bizarre. The rest of it actually seems to work. So you've got clicky buttons, you've got your D-pad. I think that leaves us with one thing to do then, and that's take it apart. Now, I've actually reviewed on this channel before quite a few dummy products. We've got this one right here, which is a Nintendo DS Lite, which has a cardboard screen, and it has a blank motherboard inside it with no surface mount components. And I've also got this one right here, which is a Nintendo Game Boy Advance SP, again with a cardboard screen, and it does also have a motherboard inside with just enough things to make buttons press, but nothing to actually make it work. So I imagine we're probably going to get something fairly similar with this. I might be mistaken. So we're going to use the faceplate removing tool, which is a very simple little thing, piece of plastic with two little pins on it. You press it into there and it releases the two latches. And there you have the faceplate itself, which is the thing that you spent 200 points on. That is the silk screen of the motherboard right there. So this thing has got a motherboard inside it, which is just ridiculous. That is a way, if you wanted, to get a battery cover if one of your Game Boys didn't have one. There we go. Battery cover. Inside, there is no battery. You can see a bit more there of the silk screen for the motherboard in there. So this Game Boy is without a doubt the hardest Game Boy to take apart. So if you're new to repairing Game Boys, don't start with the Game Boy Micro. So there we go. That is the back piece removed from the Game Boy. You can see it there. And as I said, this is a slightly different piece to what's on the standard retail Game Boys, which is just a really, really strange thing. I honestly do not understand why they have done this. It's very confusing. So there we go. We have removed the sort of skeleton piece which holds a lot of the Game Boy together. What we're going to do now is just lift the whole unit out of the front of the Game Boy. And you can see, I mean, this is some more funny stuff happening right here. Look at this. Two interesting things to make note of. This is a small piece of polystyrene, which has been used to press the screen towards the front of the Game Boy because obviously a piece of paper isn't thick enough. And then the next thing that we have, I mean, this really is blowing my mind now, is an actual slab of metal with a fake screen on it, which is going to give the Game Boy a bit more of an authentic weight. I mean, that is over-engineering at its finest. Look at that combination to make a fake screen for a dummy Game Boy that is only holding this part. What is going on right now? So all the other little bits have fallen out. You've got the shoulder buttons here, you've got your power switch, and you've got your start and select right there. So all of these spare components easily you could sell on eBay because people need these bits. So there we have the actual front of the Game Boy now, and you can see that is the unpopulated IC, I believe that is. That's the main sort of chip. You've got some other little chips around the side. I mean, everything is unpopulated. There's meant to be a ribbon connector there as well, which is not even there. So that's the cartridge shield removed. Let's go ahead and sit that over there. And so the final three screws are just over here on this sort of daughter board, which is connected by a ribbon cable, which is actually soldered directly to the motherboard, if that makes any sense. And interestingly, there is a PCB that extends off of the motherboard for the start and select, but they haven't bothered to put the little switches in which would make them click. I mean, why go through all of this effort and then save 0.01 cent on a surface mount switch? That is really, really bizarre. There we go then. That is a completely unpopulated Game Boy Micro motherboard. Well, not completely unpopulated because you do have the things, just enough things. It looks like it's only the headphone jack and the charging port right there, just to make it look like it's actually real. There's meant to be some stickers there and stuff. That's where the cartridge connector is supposed to be. What a beautiful little thing, and just so bizarre that Nintendo have actually done this. And obviously, of course, you have your buttons, your silicon membranes. This black piece here is actually quite desirable too because that's what holds the faceplate on, and a lot of those get broken. So there we have it. That is a teared down Game Boy Micro, which Nintendo for some reason sold, which never actually worked, all just to hold this one piece. I don't really know what to say. I mean, other than why?